The wind screamed across the cliffs of Virelia Prime, tearing at the edges of the small settlement like it wanted to rip it from the world. Dust and sparks of ionized air swirled under twin suns that burned the sky an angry orange. Most humans avoided the highlands. The dragons there were ancient, dangerous, and proud. Only a few dared to study them, or try to help them. Dr. Elric Voss, human xenoveterinarian, was one of the few. Elric's clinic was little more than a rugged building of reinforced alloys and glass, perched at the cliff's edge. Inside, alien medical devices blinked and hummed, scanning creatures most humans thought untouchable. Elric wiped sweat from his forehead, his hands still trembling from the last patient, a sand serpent with cracked scales. He had just stabilized it when a distant roar shattered the calm. It was not the usual thunder of storms or the wind over the cliffs. This roar was desperate, raw, filled with panic. Then he saw her. Silver wings, tattered and torn, cut through the orange sky like a knife. The dragon moved faster than anything natural should. Its eyes were wide, and in her forelimbs she carried something small and fragile. Elric's heart skipped. He knew immediately it was a hatchling, maybe only hours old. Its scales were dull, fractured, and trembling. It was breathing in shallow, irregular gasps, barely alive. The mother landed with a crash that shook the ground beneath him. Rocks skittered into the air, and the clinic's door rattled. Elric froze. Every instinct screamed to stay back. Dragons were predators of immense power. One swipe could crush a human instantly. Yet, despite her size and strength, she lowered her head to him. He could feel something like thought reach into his mind. A pleading, desperate mind trying to communicate. Please, only you can save him. He cannot die. Elric's pulse raced. He had seen strange creatures communicate in odd ways before, but nothing like this. He forced himself to step forward. One wrong movement, one sign of aggression, and the mother could turn on him. Yet in her eyes he saw fear too. It was not a creature attacking for survival. It was a mother terrified for her child. He reached for his medical bag, shaking hands, steadying as best he could. Okay, he muttered. I'll help. I'll try. The hatchling's chest rose in uneven twitches. Elric knelt, careful not to make sudden motions. He scanned the fragile creature with a handheld bioanalyzer. The readings were worse than he expected. Heart barely beating, oxygen levels plummeting, tissue damage spreading fast. Nothing in the colony's database matched this exactly. The hatchling was unlike anything he had ever treated. The mother shifted, her wings scraping against the ground, knocking over a stack of supplies. Her voice, strong but trembling, filled his mind again. You must save him. I cannot fly with him like this. If he dies, my bloodline ends. Elric swallowed, feeling the weight of responsibility crush him. This was bigger than any animal he had treated. This was a life that might never have a chance unless he acted. Yet he had no full understanding of dragon biology. One wrong move, one incorrect dose, and he could kill it instantly. He set his bag on the floor and began carefully extracting tools. Nano-repair gels, stabilizing serums, biosensors. All improvised for alien creatures. He worked methodically, measuring, adjusting, thinking through every step. The mother hovered above, wings twitching anxiously, sending gusts of wind that nearly knocked him over. Each moment felt like a minute, each breath could be the hatchling's last. Suddenly the ground trembled. A distant hum became a mechanical roar. Elric looked up. Shadows moved over the cliffs. Scavenger drones. Metal shells designed to capture rare alien creatures. They were programmed to hunt, to grab, to kill if necessary. The mother's silver eyes widened. Her wings flared and a roar ripped through the sky, but she was weak, injured, unable to fend them off properly. Elric's mind raced. He could abandon the hatchling and try to hide, but then the mother would likely die defending it. Or he could stay and try to protect it while continuing treatment. Every choice carried impossible risk. Humans were not built to fight dragons, let alone high-tech drones. Yet he had to act. He had to try. He grabbed a small control pad from the wall and began rerouting the clinic's old defense turrets. Sparks flew as he bypassed outdated firewalls, programming them to fire non-lethal electromagnetic pulses. His fingers were shaking, and he had never done this under pressure before, but failure meant certain death for the hatchling. The drones descended, scanning for movement, metal claws extending. The mother let out a fierce roar and lunged, flapping weakly. Turrets fired. Blue arcs of energy struck the first drone, short-circuiting its circuits. Another drone crashed into the cliffside. Sparks and smoke filled the air. The mother circled, confused but cautious, glancing at Elric. He barely noticed the hatchling's chest twitching erratically beneath him. The immediate threat was fended off, but the danger was far from over. The hatchling's vitals were still critical, and the mother's strength was fading. Elric took a deep breath, feeling the weight of impossible responsibility pressing down. He looked at the tiny dragon and then at the mother, eyes wide with fear and hope. Somewhere deep inside, he knew the next hours would decide not just one life, but the fragile trust between humans and dragons on Virelia Prime. And then he felt it, a sudden flicker of energy in the hatchling's body, unstable, unpredictable. One wrong move now, one miscalculation, and the fragile life before him could end forever. Elric gritted his teeth. He would not fail. But as he reached for the stabilizing serum, a sharp, metallic screech sounded from outside the clinic. Something, or someone, was coming. Elric's hands were trembling, but he forced them steady. The hatchling's fragile body quivered in his palms, every heartbeat a reminder of how close it was to death. The mother hovered above, wings weak, eyes locked on him as if reading every thought. The clinic's turrets had bought them only a few minutes. Beyond the shattered glass, the desert winds carried the metallic hum of more drones approaching. They would not wait. They would not care. They wanted the hatchling, and nothing would stop them. Elric scanned the tiny dragon with his handheld analyzer. Heart unstable, oxygen low, tissue deteriorating. Its crystalline scales were cracking, each fracture like glass under pressure. Standard alien medicines had no effect. The colony's database offered only partial information, fragments of dragon physiology scattered over centuries of incomplete records. He had to improvise. He had to think faster than any machine, faster than the drones, faster than fear. He dug into his bag, pulling out nanorepair gels, biostasis injectors, and experimental enzymes designed for high-risk xenobiology. His fingers worked on instinct, carefully layering treatments while monitoring vitals. He could feel the mother's anxiety radiating toward him. It was not just fear, it was trust. Every motion he made now would define whether she lived to fly again and whether her child survived. A tremor shook the floor. Elric froze. Dust fell from the ceiling. Through the reinforced windows he saw the first of the second wave of scavenger drones, sleek, black, armed with plasma claws and seizure nets. They had followed the first crash, undeterred by losses. The mother's wings beat weakly, stirring gusts that rattled the clinic. She was ready to fight, but she was injured and her attacks would be slow, dangerous. If the drones breached the doors, the hatchling and clinic would be destroyed. Elric's mind raced. Humans were weaker than dragons. They were fragile, soft, unarmed in raw strength. Yet, humanity survived because it could think, adapt, and act under impossible odds. He ran to the control panel, fingers flying over outdated keys, reprogramming the turrets to target the drones with a new pattern. Electromagnetic pulses alone might not stop them. He added directional repulsion fields, adjusted targeting for speed and proximity, and synchronized the system with the clinic's emergency energy reserves. The drones advanced. Sparks flew. A pulse from the turret hit one drone, short-circuiting it mid-air. Another swung its claw at the window, slicing through glass and sending shards raining down. The mother lunged, narrowly avoiding the blade, her roar echoing across the cliffs. Elric shielded the hatchling, rolling to avoid falling debris. Sweat burned his eyes, hands slick, heart hammering, yet he pressed on. Even with the immediate danger managed, the hatchling's condition worsened. Its chest heaved in shallow, ragged bursts. Its scales shimmered with faint, flickering light, like tiny fractures spreading into darkness. Elric realized something critical. The hatchling's blood chemistry reacted violently to normal oxygen levels under the twin sun's radiation. Too much oxygen and its cells would collapse. Too little and it would suffocate. He had no proper equipment for this. Only human ingenuity and raw nerve could save it. He adjusted the biostasis field, combining ionic nanogels with neural-linked sensors that allowed him to monitor each heartbeat in real time. Every adjustment had to be precise. One miscalculation, one wrong flow of enzyme, and the hatchling would die. His palms ached from the fine control, but he could not stop. Humans endured pain, fear, exhaustion, and they acted anyway. Suddenly, the mother let out a screech. Another drone had breached the perimeter, clawed its way past the turrets, and hovered menacingly near the hatchling. Elric froze. He was defenseless. The mother lunged, flapping her wings, knocking the drone off balance. Sparks and smoke filled the room. The hatchling gasped violently, and Elric realized it had triggered a secondary complication, an infection spreading faster than anything he had seen. He had no choice. He needed to act instantly. Digging into his emergency stash, he retrieved a prototype biolattice patch. a lattice of nanobots capable of stabilizing foreign tissues. He injected it carefully into the hatchling's bloodstream, hands trembling, sweat blinding his vision. The chest heaved violently, almost stopping, then slowed, stabilizing. The tiny creature let out a faint, quivering chirp. Relief surged through him, but there was no time to relax. The drones were regrouping. Their sensors were relentless, their programming brutal. The mother hovered weakly, watching Elric work, wings trembling, her massive body like a fragile tower in the storm. Elric realized he had done more than stabilize the hatchling. He had proven something else entirely, that humans could act with courage, intelligence, and moral clarity even against creatures far stronger and machines far faster. But the threat was far from over. More drones were coming, and the mother could not hold them off for long. Elric had only hours, maybe minutes, to stabilize the hatchling fully, or risk losing it, and the mother's trust would evaporate if she saw failure. He gritted his teeth, looking at the tiny, fragile creature in his hands and then at the enormous, desperate dragon mother. This was more than medicine. It was a test of human resolve. One wrong move now and everything, the hatchling, the mother, the fragile piece between species, would be destroyed. A sharp metallic screech sounded outside. Elric's blood ran cold. Another drone had arrived, bigger, faster, smarter than the last. Its claws glinted under the twin suns. The mother tensed, ready to defend, but she looked to him, waiting for a decision. Elric swallowed, heart pounding, and whispered, "We can't fail." The hatchling's chest fluttered, unstable, fragile. The drone's shadow fell across the floor. The moment of truth had come. Elric felt the weight of the drone's shadow pressing through the cracked windows. Its metal claws scraped the reinforced glass, sending tiny sparks across the floor. The mother dragon hovered, wings trembling, but she could not strike effectively. Her strength was fading, and her concern for the hatchling left her distracted. Elric's chest ached with fear, but he forced his mind into focus. Panic would kill them faster than any machine. The hatchling's breathing was shallow, uneven, almost imperceptible. Its tiny chest flickered under the unstable biostasis field, like a candle struggling in the wind. Standard oxygen levels made it worse, too much accelerated the tissue damage, too little starved its cells. The colony's old medical database offered clues, but nothing complete. Every human instinct Elric had learned from years of treating dangerous, alien creatures kicked in. He moved quickly, grabbing his emergency synthesizer. The device was designed for rapid molecular assembly of medical compounds, but even with it, creating a compound precise enough for a dragon hatchling was nearly impossible. One miscalculation would overload its system. One wrong ratio and the hatchling would die instantly. Sweat stung his eyes, fingers shaking as he fed in the partial data. The drone outside grew impatient. Its claws scraped the floor, rattling the walls. The mother let out a low growl, circling above, wings brushing against the ceiling, throwing dust and debris into the air. Elric ignored the chaos around him. He had to succeed not just for the hatchling, but for the fragile trust forming between humans and dragons. He adjusted the nanogel composition, integrating biolattice stabilizers and ionic enzymes. The biostasis field hummed, fluctuating with every tiny heartbeat of the hatchling. Elric leaned closer, whispering softly to it. Humans rarely spoke to creatures like this, but he had learned that calm presence mattered. "Hold on, just a little longer. I won't let you die." Another tremor shook the building. A second drone smashed against the side of the clinic, sparks flying. The mother twisted in midair, sending a gust of wind that nearly knocked Elric over. The hatchling's chest fluttered violently, threatening to collapse. He grabbed a stabilizer injector, its energy core glowing with power. One precise shot into the hatchling's bloodstream could restore its vital balance. Too strong, it would kill it instantly. Elric's fingers worked with the precision of a surgeon and the instinct of a predator. He injected the compound slowly, monitoring every heartbeat through his neural-linked interface. The hatchling's body spasmed violently, then gradually, imperceptibly stabilized. Its scales began to shimmer again, tiny fractures closing like cracks in ice under the sun. The mother's telepathic presence softened, her fear shifting into cautious hope. "You can save him," she thought. Elric felt her relief mingle with his own exhaustion. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to believe he had succeeded. Then a new alarm sounded. A high-pitched whine unlike the drones he had faced before. Through the shattered glass, a larger shadow approached. Bigger than any scavenger drone, faster, armed with claws designed to penetrate reinforced metal. Elric froze. The mother tensed above, wings beating furiously. This was a predator beyond her current strength, beyond any human's raw ability to fight. Elric had no weapons, no backup, and only minutes to act. But humans thrived on impossible odds. He grabbed his control pad, rerouting every remaining power reserve to the clinic's defense grid. The turrets fired electromagnetic pulses, knocking the new drone off balance. Sparks flew, metal screeched, but it adapted, recalibrating midair. It would breach the building if he did not act fast. Thinking quickly, Elric rigged a makeshift trap. He drew on his knowledge of physics, engineering, and dragon biology. Using a combination of the nanogels and the clinic's energy conduits, he created a temporary electromagnetic field around the hatchling. If the drone touched it, its circuits would overload. It was risky, he had no idea if the field would be strong enough, but it was the only chance. The drone descended, claws extended. Elric held his breath. The hatchling whimpered, its tiny body trembling. The mother roared, attempting to strike, but her wings lacked strength. The drone reached the edge of the field. Sparks flew across its chassis. Smoke curled from its circuits. It twitched violently and crashed into the cliffside, scattering debris into the wind. Elric sank to his knees, chest heaving. The hatchling's breathing steadied further, its crystalline scales gleaming under the twin suns. The mother landed beside him, her eyes wide, full of something like awe. She nudged the hatchling gently, telepathically conveying thanks that no words could capture. But the moment of relief was brief. Elric knew more challenges would come. The colony was far from safe. Scavenger drones would regroup, rival humans might attempt capture, and the hatchling was still weak. He looked at the tiny creature in his hands and then at the enormous mother, and a fierce resolve burned inside him. Humans were not the strongest, but courage, ingenuity, and determination could tip the balance, even against overwhelming odds. A flicker ran through the hatchling's body, tiny, unstable energy pulses. One misstep now could undo everything. And outside, a shadow moved along the cliffs faster than before. Someone, or something, was coming. Elric wiped the sweat from his brow and whispered, "We're not done yet. Not by a long shot." The mother's eyes narrowed, wings rising, ready to defend. The hatchling's chest rose in small, steady breaths, fragile but alive. The next stage of the challenge was about to begin, and Elric knew he would need every ounce of courage and cleverness he possessed. The shadow on the cliffs was no ordinary drone. It was larger, sleeker, and faster than anything Elric had faced before. Its metallic wings glinted under the twin suns, and its sensors scanned the clinic with deadly precision. The mother dragon flared her wings, roaring, but her movements were sluggish, her strength diminished from the long struggle. She could not fight it alone. Elric's hands shook, but his mind was clear. Humans survived by thinking, improvising, and taking impossible risks. He ran to the control pad, heart hammering, and began rerouting every ounce of power from the clinic's energy core to the defense turrets. The large drone adjusted midair, claws aimed directly at the hatchling, and he realized it was fast enough to outmaneuver the turrets if left unchecked. He had to lure it into a trap. Thinking quickly, he grabbed a small energy emitter from his bag. It could project a temporary gravitational field, a weak but precise attraction that could alter the drone's trajectory. He calculated angles, timing, and force in seconds. One miscalculation, and the drone would break through the clinic's wall and crush the hatchling. The drone dove. Sparks flew as the turrets fired, but it twisted midair, dodging with mechanical precision. The mother lunged, trying to strike, but her body was too fatigued. Elric triggered the emitter. A pulse of energy rippled through the air. The drone faltered, its wings snapping in unexpected directions. It crashed into the cliffside, sliding dangerously close to the edge. Elric exhaled barely. But the hatchling was still weak, and the drone's companions were likely regrouping. He turned back to the tiny creature. Its chest fluttered erratically, every beat a fragile promise of life. Elric knew this was the moment that mattered most. He had to stabilize it completely before the next wave of danger arrived. His fingers worked furiously, adjusting the biolattice patch, feeding nanorepair enzymes directly into the bloodstream. Every pulse of the field had to sync with the hatchling's heartbeat. Too much energy, it would burn. Too little, it would collapse. The mother watched, wings tense, eyes locked on Elric. She could sense his focus, his determination. Humans were fragile yet fearless, and she felt something stir deep in her instincts, a cautious trust. She nudged the hatchling gently with her snout, adding her warmth and reassurance. The hatchling responded, tiny movements signaling life returning. Suddenly, a sharp screech cut through the air. A second drone had arrived, larger and more aggressive than the first. Its claws glinted, ready to tear through anything. Elric's breath caught. He had no weapons beyond the turrets and the emitter. He looked at the mother. She glared at the new threat but hesitated, her wings weak. The decision was his. Humans survive through intelligence, he reminded himself. He triggered the emergency override, connecting the turrets, the emitter and the biolattice field into one network defense. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, but the system hummed with precision. He calculated the drone's trajectory, timing the pulse to coincide with the hatchling's final heartbeat adjustment. Every calculation had to be perfect. The drone dove. The turrets fired. Blue arcs of energy struck its metallic frame, slowing it just enough. The emitter rippled, pulling it into the temporary gravitational trap. Sparks exploded across its wings, and it spiraled out of control, crashing into the cliffside with a deafening roar. Elric sank to his knees, chest heaving, hands slick with sweat. The hatchling's chest rose in steady rhythmic beats. Life had returned. The mother dragon let out a low, melodic growl. Relief washed over her, radiating toward Elric. She landed beside him, wings folding carefully, careful not to crush him. The hatchling chirped, small but strong, pressing against his palm. Elric felt a swell of emotion. Humans had no claws, no fire, no natural weapons to match dragons or machines. But courage, intelligence and determination had carried the day. Outside, the sun dipped lower, shadows stretching across the cliffs. More drones might come, but Elric knew they had made a statement. Humans could protect life no matter how impossible the odds. The mother nuzzled the hatchling, her voice calm now, her mind connecting briefly with Elric's. "You have earned our trust," she thought. It was not just a statement of gratitude. It was a promise. Elric's hands trembled as he adjusted the final settings on the biolattice patch. The hatchling's scales gleamed, tiny fractures repaired, its chest strong and even. The mother curled protectively around her child, wings stretched wide, and for a brief moment, the wind carried only the sound of life returning, not destruction. But Elric did not relax completely. Virilia Prime was a dangerous world. Scavenger drones would regroup, rival humans might attempt capture, and the hatchling was still fragile. Every moment had been a test, not just of medicine but of courage, quick thinking and moral clarity. Humans had survived impossible odds not through strength, but through the choices they made under pressure. The mother looked at him again, eyes gleaming with something close to awe. Elric felt it too, a bond forming between species, fragile but real. He realized that humans, despite being small and weak, could influence the fate of creatures far larger, far older, far stronger. Courage, intelligence, and determination could bridge worlds. The hatchling chirped again, stronger now, pressing its tiny body into his hands. Elric breathed deeply, exhaustion settling in but satisfaction too. Humanity had survived another impossible test. And in doing so, they had earned something extraordinary, the trust of a species that had once ruled this land without question. Then a faint hum reached him from the cliffs. More drones, or perhaps other humans seeking the hatchling. Elric stood ready. The storm was not over, but he was not afraid. He had proven one thing: humans could rise even when the odds were stacked against them. And he would rise again if necessary to protect life that others could not. The mother flared her wings, sending a gust of wind through the clinic, and the hatchling chirped, tiny and alive as if to say, "We survived together." Elric's jaw set. Whatever came next he would face it, not just for the hatchling, not just for the mother, but for humanity's place in this wild, dangerous world. The wind over the cliffs had softened. The twin suns were dipping lower, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. The scavenger drones were gone, or at least temporarily retreating, and the mother dragon had settled beside the hatchling, her massive body forming a protective circle around him. Elric Voss wiped sweat and dust from his brow, his hands still trembling from exhaustion. The weight of what he had just survived pressed on him, but beneath it was a quiet satisfaction. The impossible had been done. The hatchling stirred, tiny crystalline scales reflecting the dying sunlight, eyes blinking curiously. Its chest rose and fell in steady, strong breaths. Elric knelt beside it, careful not to disturb the fragile creature. He let out a long, shuddering exhale. "You made it," he whispered, almost afraid to believe it. The mother nudged the hatchling with her snout, telepathically sending a wave of relief that washed over him. "You have saved him. I will remember this." For the first time since the dragons had arrived at his clinic, Elric allowed himself a small smile. Humans had no natural advantage here. They were soft, small, fragile. Yet intelligence, courage, and compassion had allowed him to save not just one life, but potentially the future of a species. The mother dragon's gaze met his, and for a moment he felt the weight of her gratitude. It was silent, powerful, and unshakable. Weeks passed. The colony gradually recovered from the drone attacks. Word of Elric's feat spread slowly among the human settlers. He had stabilized the hatchling, monitored its growth, and built a secure habitat at the edge of the cliff where mother and child could recover fully. The mother dragon no longer hovered constantly, her wings growing stronger with each passing day. She had accepted him as a protector and partner in this dangerous world. The hatchling grew rapidly, its crystalline scales hardening, eyes bright and alert. Elric often spent hours monitoring its vitals, adjusting diets, and teaching it to adapt to the oxygen and energy levels of Virelia Prime. He spoke softly to it, explaining simple things, guiding its first flaps of flight. The hatchling responded, chirping and fluttering, sometimes brushing against his hands as though acknowledging him. One evening, as the suns dipped below the jagged horizon, Elric watched mother and child soar across the cliffs, moving in synchronized loops. He realized that humans, though physically weak, had something no predator could ever match: the ability to act with courage and intelligence when every second mattered. The drones could return. Rival humans could attempt capture. But for now, life had been defended and trust had been earned. A young girl from the colony approached him, holding a small data pad. "Dr. Voss," she said, voice trembling, "they're asking for a report on the hatchling. The colony council wants to know if it can survive without constant human intervention." Elric looked at the soaring figures above, the mother and hatchling moving together with grace and strength. He shook his head gently. "It's more than survival. It's thriving. And yes, humans helped them reach that point, but they can live on their own now. They don't need us every moment, only our courage when it mattered most." The mother dragon circled once, low, then hovered close enough that Elric could feel the wind from her wings. She dipped her massive head toward him, eyes glinting, and for a moment, Elric could almost hear her voice in his mind. "You have proven your species worthy. We will not forget." Elric's heart swelled. It was rare for a human to earn the trust of dragons. Rarer still to save a hatchling on the brink of death. But in this moment he understood something deeper. Heroism was not about strength. It was about moral courage, intelligence under pressure, and the willingness to act when others would falter. The hatchling chirped again, brighter this time, and flapped its small wings experimentally. The mother nudged it gently and it rose higher, dancing in the warm wind. Elric watched, a quiet smile breaking through his exhaustion. He realized that this day, this moment, would echo far beyond the cliffs of Virelia Prime. Humans had survived impossible odds, not with fire or claws, but with heart, mind, and determination. He turned back toward the clinic, checking equipment, securing the perimeter, and making minor adjustments to the biostasis systems. Elric knew that life on Virelia Prime would never be simple, that danger lurked in every corner, and that dragons were still wild, unpredictable, and formidable. Yet he also knew that humans could rise to any challenge. They could adapt, think, and act in ways that even the strongest predators could not anticipate. That evening, as the suns finally dipped below the horizon and the sky darkened to shades of deep purple and gold, Elric sat at the edge of the cliffs, watching the mother and hatchling disappear into the distant winds. A soft wind carried the faint sound of wings, a sound that now meant trust, survival, and hope. He allowed himself a rare, full exhale. Humanity had not just survived, they had triumphed in a world that seemed impossible to conquer. And as he stood, brushing the dust from his coat, he knew this was only the beginning. Humans would continue to face impossible odds, and they would continue to rise. For Elric, for the hatchling, and for every life that depended on courage and intelligence, that was the greatest victory of all. The mother returned one final time, circling low, wings wide. She nudged the hatchling gently against Elric's side, then lifted into the sky. The twin suns glinted off her scales as she soared toward the horizon, the hatchling following, strong and alive. Elric watched until they were specks against the fiery sky, and a quiet, resolute smile formed on his face. Humans had done the impossible, and they had earned a place in the wilds of Virelia Prime. The cliff was silent, save for the wind and the soft hum of his equipment. But in that silence, Elric felt something powerful. Humanity had survived and they had shined.